Does courts enjoy immunity from criticism? And are courts always right? Are these two questions which were decided by the Supreme Court in the year 1970 after the landmark judgment of R.C. Cooper versus Union of India, also known as the bank nationalization case. Six judges decided these two questions in a contempt proceedings which were initiated since the judgment of the Supreme Court in R.C. Cooper was widely criticized and the leaders of the government, including the minister in the Ministry of Finance, was criticizing the judgment and passing certain adverse comments on the judgment. The R.C. Cooper judgment, as we today know, is a landmark of the law and is a celebrated judgment of the Supreme Court, where 11 judges of the Supreme Court declared the Bank Nationalization Act to be ultra vires and violative of fundamental rights of the citizen. 10 judges in one voice declared the said act to be unconstitutional. The most significant aspect of the said judgment was the fact that it overruled the 20-year-old judgment of A.K. Gopalan, which had restricted the interpretation of fundamental rights as being isolated silos and had restricted the expansion of its meaning and scope. It had also narrowly interpreted the word personal liberty in Article 21. It is only after the judgment of R.C. Cooper that the scope and width of fundamental rights came to be truly expanded by several other judgments relying on R.C. Cooper. R.C. Cooper is also significant because it first time laid down the object and effect test, holding that it is not just the object of the act but also its effect which has to be seen while considering the validity of the act. It held that it is not the object of the authority making the law impairing the right of a citizen, nor the form of action taken that determines the protection he can claim. It is the effect of the law and of the action upon the right which attracts the jurisdiction of the court to grant relief. Today, it is one of the most celebrated judgments of the Supreme Court. However, at that time when it was delivered, it was one of the most criticized judgments of the Supreme Court. The leaders from the government were criticizing the judgment, and it was reported in several newspapers that one of the ministers had said that the majority decision in the bank case did not enhance the prestige of the judiciary. The Supreme Court judgment would be treated with more and more contempt by ordinary people. The judiciary had persistently failed to interpret the Constitution and remained static. 10 judges sitting in ivory tower could not sit in judgment over verdict of Parliament which represented the people. That it was never the intention of the Constitution to make the Supreme Court the third house of correction. That attempt to utilize community savings lying in banks for the welfare of the common man have been blocked by the judiciary. That the Supreme Court could not be accepted as the third chamber of legislature. It is because of such comments that contempt proceedings were initiated, and that the Supreme Court decided these two questions by observing that there is no doubt that the court, like any other institution, does not enjoy immunity from fair criticism. This court does not claim to be always right, although it does not spare any effort to be right according to the best of the ability, knowledge, and judgment of the judges. They do not think themselves in possession of all truth or hold that wherever others differ from them, it is so far error. No one is more conscious of his limitations and fallibility than a judge, but because of his training and the assistance he gets from the learned counsel, he is apt to avoid mistakes more than others. We are constrained to say also that while fair and temperate criticism of this court or any other court, even if strong, may not be actionable, but attributing improper motives or tending to bring judges or courts into hatred and contempt or obstructing directly or indirectly with the functioning of courts is serious contempt of which notice must and will be taken. Respect is expected not only from those to whom the judgment of the court is acceptable, but also from those to whom it is repugnant. Those who err in their criticism by indulging in vilification of the institution of courts, administration of justice, and the instruments through which the administration acts should take heed, for they will act at their own peril. After making the said observation, the court dropped the proceedings of contempt. But what the Supreme Court has held, that the judgments can be criticized, but improper motives cannot be attributed. Also, it cannot be abused or vilified. Also, the criticism should not be scurrilous or scandalous in order to downgrade the dignity of the court or the administration of justice. This incident is certainly very interesting because what today appears to be one of the most landmark judgments was at that time one of the most criticized judgments, and the Supreme Court had to hear the contempt petition wherein certain abusive statements were made in the press and which were published in leading newspapers. But the Supreme Court upheld its majesty by holding that the Supreme Court is open to criticism, also accepting that it is not infallible, it can err, but also at the same time warning those who wanted to vilify and use abusive language in order to criticize the judgment. So, in a way, it's a very interesting event of the history.